Welcome to our class and good evening, trainees. Good evening. You can unmute your mic and respond. Mtuku Emmanuel,
Yeah, I can hear you.
Jacob,
Here present.
Sharon Jepkuri,
I can hear you, sir.
Alfred Kucho,
Hello, Malim.
and Benarda.
Present.
Okay, well. So, I want us to have our class today, and in our discussion today, we are going to discuss about applied GIS and remote sensing techniques. Class, I want to confirm from your side if you are able to see my screen now. Somebody can respond. Yes? Jacob,
Sorry, I didn't get the question right.
are you able to see my screen right now?
Oh yes, the screen is displaying properly.
Okay, thank you. Now, before we begin, last session, we had our discussion on the natural resources. And we had mentioned different types of natural resources. So who can help us to remind ourselves what we discussed last lesson? Types of natural resources that we discussed.
Example X.
Yes, Jacob, correct?
Lex.
Yes.
We have a forest.
Yes, Mtuku, that is right.
Mountains.
That is true, Lilian. And many more. So we also looked as well at the importance and what were the importance of these resources that were just mentioned. Yes, Tanui.
Source of foreign exchange.
Is true. Jacob.
Aesthetic beauty.
Yes, Leon, that is true. So right away, I want us now to begin our topic, and the topic, the session topic is applied GIS and remote sensing techniques. So since we discussed about these resources, we want to see how we can manage them through using environmental information systems. Now, the learning outcomes are two, and I want Sharon to read for us the learning outcomes for the session.
By the end of the session, the learner should be able to define terms, that is GIS, remote sensing, sensor, and electromagnetic radiation. And then 2 is to explain data collection techniques based on the purpose.
Thank you, Sharon. That is right. So that is what we are to focus on. And we are to cover the two objectives as you have just read them. So let me go straight to the first objective. Let's look at the definition of terms. So we are to define 4 terms as used in GIS and remote sensing. So first, let me start from the definition of GIS. Jacob?
Yes.
Please define for us GIS.
GIS in full geographic information system.
That is
basically is a system that collects, stores, and analyzes geographic data.
That is correct, Jacob. Thank you for that. The next definition we are going to look is remote sensing. And I want to get that from Lillian. Lillian, please
Yes.
define for us remote sensing.
So remote sensing is the process of acquiring data about object without getting into contact with the sensors.
Yeah, that is true. So it's just a process of obtaining data about an object without physically coming into contact with that. That is correct. Then let's go next to the sensor. Utuku,
Yes, sir.
define for us a
A
sensor.
sensor is any instrument that collects data by detecting the energy that is reflected from the target of interest.
Yeah, thank you for that trial. So it's just a device that detects the energy reflected from a target, and then it records it, and then we are able to get the actual information from the source. Then lastly, let's look at the electromagnetic radiations. And I want this to go to Benalda Tanui.
It is that process where energy travels through space in form of waves, and those waves include visible light, radio waves, infrared radiation, ultraviolet radiation, and X-rays.
Thank you, Benalda. That is true. So I want to appreciate that what you have just shared, that is the definition of those terminologies. So as you can see from there, those are the definition of the four terms that were just mentioned. And I can see that you have the correct understanding of the topic of the session of today. Now, next, let's look at the data collection techniques based on the purpose. When we are collecting the GIS data, we are collecting for a specific purpose, or we are doing it for us to attain a given objective. And we have various purposes for collecting GIS data. And I want you, class, to give me some of the purposes of collecting the GIS data. Let me start from Jacob. One.
The purpose of collecting GIS is one of them. I can say natural resource management.
Thank you, Jacob. That is correct. Let's move to Lillian.
Another one is urban planning.
Urban planning, that is correct. Benalda?
Agriculture.
Agriculture, that is true. So as you can look from this slide, you can be able to see that the reason as to why we are collecting this data is for environmental monitoring, urban planning, natural resource management, and agriculture. Just as you said from our previous session, we look at the natural resources. Now we want to see how we can manage these resources using technology. Okay, now for us to collect this data, there are so many techniques, but we have to put into consideration some aspects. So before we settle on a given technique, what we consider? Winnie, what do we consider? Yes, Bernarda?
The available resources.
Available resources ahead. Sharon?
The accuracy needed.
Okay, Lillian can help.
The accuracy needed.
Accuracy needed. That is true. So these are the three aspects that you look at the type of data required, accuracy needed, and the available resources. True. Now, let's move to the GIS data collection techniques. Now, from your own research, from your own understanding, you have come across these techniques. What are the available techniques for collection of GIS data? Let me start with Jacob. Jacob?
Like I can help.
Yes, Lillian?
Remote sensing.
Thank you, Lillian. Remote sensing. Sharon? Okay, Benalda.
Now let me come in.
Yes, yes, Jacob, welcome.
There's aerial photography.
Aerial photograph, that's correct. Mtuku.
We have a global position system, GPS.
Yes, the GPS, global positioning system. Yeah, that is true. So as you can see there, we have remote sensing, and there you can be able to see the example of the remote sensing platforms where we have the satellite. Two, we have the global positioning systems, and an example of a global positioning device is a GPS receiver. Then we have a GNSS, the Global Navigation Satellite Receivers, also is one of the techniques for collection of the GIS data. Then we have field data collection. Here we can use the total stations. We can even use our smartphones and even tablets. Then another technique is the aerial photography, where we can be able to use drones, man-made aircraft, and etc. So basically, those are the techniques. And now that is the end of our session. But before I conclude, let's review on what we have just learned. So, class, what are the purposes of GIS and remote sensing data? Lillian.
One, we have environmental monitoring.
Environmental monitoring, that is correct. Jacob?
Yes.
Yes, what are the purposes of GIS data?
Management of natural resources.
Management of natural resources, that is true. Now, let's also look at the techniques of data collection. What are the available techniques? Yes, Sharon?
Have the GPS.
GPS, that is true. Mtuku? Mtuku?
GNSS.
Thank you, Mtuku, the GNSS. So among the many. So thank you for sparing your time for this class, and much appreciation for being active in my class. So before I end up the class, this is the assignment. In groups of 2, create a video summarizing the techniques of collecting GIS and remote sensing data. The video should be not more than 2 MPs, include your names of the group members, and should be submitted in the next lesson. Thank you, and this comes to an end of our session.
Thank you.
You.
Karibu, karibu.
Good night.
Thank you, thank you.